The staff at the restaurant declined to serve the police officer when she entered one morning. They had no idea that they were going to get some delicious justice. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. In Alexandria, Virginia, one morning, a police officer dressed in full costume went about her work as she would have any other day. There are new dangers, difficulties, or accomplishments every day, yet this officer experienced none of them. She lived, really, accepting each day as it came. An average workday for this officer would consist of patrols as usual, maybe 2 or 3 traffic citations to impatient vehicles, and maybe mediating conflicts between irate neighbors. This police officer always made sure to uphold the fundamental principles of her line of work in all she performed. Therefore, regardless of the setting, a restaurant, a grocery shop, or any other place, she made sure to project fortitude, tolerance, and honesty. She had even developed positive relationships with locals as a result of this. But as this policeman quickly found out, perhaps not all of them, this investigator was still having a great time at work that day, almost noon. She had no idea that her day would soon take a turn for the worst and that she would soon find herself in a precarious situation that would eventually make headlines. After the routine run-ins that evening, this investigator was exhausted and ravenous when he suddenly had a taste for noodles for supper. She convinced herself she could devour a whole bowl of noodles at that very moment since she was so hungry. So she got in her car and headed to Duke Street, where the Neighborhood Noodles and Company restaurant was located. She had been to the restaurant a few times and had even appreciated the service, but this evening was nothing like the previous times she had been. She was relieved that there wasn't a large line when she arrived, but waiting for her turn required every bit of patience. Before it was her turn, a group of patrons, who appeared to be a family, were waiting to be served. Everything appeared normal at first, but this detective was startled to see a chef emerge from the register and approach the cashier. The investigator didn't even use her police senses to sense that something wasn't right based on the way the cook was staring. Even a layperson would have been able to see it. She pointed at the policeman and informed the cashier, "You better remove me off the line because I am not serving that." This officer was quite bewildered, even though she had seen the chef gesturing at her. She spun around, thinking the cook could be talking about someone else. She was certain it was her, though, because as she swung sideways, all eyes were on her. The policewoman assumed that since she was wearing a uniform, she was being treated horribly even though she wasn't sure what she had done to warrant it. However, when was it ever against the law to serve those wearing uniforms? As far as this police officer was aware, none. But the whole thing became even more pitiful with what followed. The cook and the cashier burst out laughing when they realized how badly their remarks had hurt the officer. This police officer understood she had to use all she had taught to stop the situation from getting worse, even though her response would annoy almost everyone. It was all she could do not to make a scene. "I guess you don't want my money then," she finally concluded, and turned to walk away. The cook and the cashier laughed some more as she left, obviously enjoying the misery they had given the officer. They had no idea that their deeds would soon leave them with a bad taste in their mouths. She wasn't finished with the situation. Even when the police officer left without even collecting the noodles she had come for, she was aware that she had to exact justice. She told her boss, Police Chief Earl Cook, everything that had transpired when she returned to work. Earl wasn't happy with how she was handled. Well, as a police officer, rage is your natural reaction. Your initial reaction is anger, which is understandable given the terrible circumstances we are in right now with our relationships with everyone and the needless treatment of one of my officers. After hearing about her suffering, Earl advised the investigator, "Then you come down a bit." But even he was taken aback when the detective informed him that she had departed without giving her opinion. He gave her a lot of credit for managing the issue well and refraining from confronting the staff, which would have led to an unwarranted uproar from the locals. However, he couldn't help but question why, given the police's positive connections with the local populace and businesses, such an unpleasant situation had to occur. He quickly contacted the restaurant after listening to the investigator, and the manager verified that the tragic tragedy had definitely occurred. They also apologized and said they would investigate the matter. The public was in favor of what they ultimately accomplished as promised, The restaurant looked into the matter and determined that the employees were at fault. Following that, they issued an official statement outlining the steps they took to guarantee the employees weren't left unpunished. Neither the corporation nor the other employees at the Duke Street store endorsed the opinions or behavior of these people, which were unacceptable. After coming to the conclusion that the two concerned team members behaved inappropriately, we promptly fired them. We cherish the relationship we have developed over the years with the local Alexandria Police Department and have the highest regard for law enforcement personnel, they stated. The public and media began to pay close attention to the news very quickly. Nearly all of them had something to say. Some residents, however, viewed it as an ideal chance to attack the eatery in order to exact revenge on them for employing subpar employees. Apart from the police's prompt intervention, nobody knows how things may have ended. They told the public via all of their social media platforms that they would not support any property destruction. This tactic was effective, and the enraged mob decided to give up. Alexandria Police Union spokesman Pete Feltham said that the restaurant shouldn't be held accountable for the deeds of a select few. Having stated so, he praised the eatery for its complete cooperation with the authorities. But they weren't the only persons that responded to this occurrence. Alexandria Mayor Allison Silverberg was also made aware of it. The actions taken by Noodles & Company to make amends also pleased her. We value Noodles & Company's prompt, comprehensive reaction and heartfelt apologies for this regrettable circumstance. We are certain that this was an isolated incident and does not represent the firm or its other dedicated workers, after having a lengthy discussion with the company's regional and national leadership. I also think the company shouldn't be judged because of the errors of a few staff members, and it's a good thing they got fired, the statement said, fortunately coming at a time when the company was already getting multiple negative reviews and helping to restore its reputation. That, in my opinion, would teach others a lesson to ensure that anything similar doesn't happen again. The eatery went one step farther and posted placards announcing its support for the cops on its doors. Following the narrative, I couldn't help but have a lot of questions. What if the cashier and the cook had behaved differently? Perhaps they would still be employed, though. Additionally, they would have prevented the retaliation that their acts must have caused for their friends and family. Who knows what happens when we leave our houses? People who would deliberately irritate us could come across. Never forget that it is best to let an unpleasant situation alone, since you never know what can happen after. If the chef at a restaurant declined to serve you, how would you respond? Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.